The Invest in Her podcast is brought to you in part by Wells Fargo Bank. Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation, and more recently, producer of the movie Show Her the Money. And today I have on an icon in our arena. She is the CEO and co-founder of the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership, also known as IFEL. Please welcome to the show, Jill Johnson. Hi, Jill. How are you?
Hi, Catherine. I'm super excited to be here.
I feel like every other week at the screenings, I always run into somebody who knows you. Like everybody knows you, loves you. You know, you are an icon in this industry. You've been in it for so long. Like, I know you've been doing business strategies for like 30 years, but you've been doing the Institute for how long?
Yeah, was it 22 years now?
20 some years, yeah.
So that for a long time, but really we've been in this angel space, which is how we got connected with you, a much shorter time, but we've just really gone deep understanding the vital need for angel capital. And I know we're going to talk about a lot of that. So it's been really exciting and fun delving into that community.
Yeah, well, I was so happy to be on a panel with you in New Jersey recently at a screening of Show Her the Money, which, thank you, IFEL has become a supporter of our movement and our endeavor. And I know you're going to be featured in our book coming out, which is called Show Her the Money. And it features all of the women that have gotten behind this movie and movement. So I call it a movement. It must be exciting for you because here you were, one of the first trailblazers in this arena, sounding the alarm that women and BIPOC and LGBTQ people were not getting the appropriate funding. And you've been banging that drum for a couple of decades, like we just mentioned.
A long time.
Yeah, you must be excited to see that, you know, with all you're doing, with what we're doing with the movie, with what a lot of other amazing women are doing now in this space, that it is just starting to pick up some major traction, wouldn't you say?
I want to be cautious about saying that. So I am the eternal optimist, and my father would always talk about believing in the power of possibility. So I am just that penultimate, possibility thinker. We have to think like that, right? To keep on doing the work decade after decade, really. But my caution about it is that there is still a long, long way to go.
Long way,
Catherine.
Long way to go. We're still getting that 2%, aren't we, Jill?
Yeah. And so, you'll hear people saying, wow, there's so much more funding, or there's so much more of this, because they're hearing about things in the media. And there is an energy and a groundswell around it. However, we are starting from such a low base when you look at the level of inclusivity overall, that I don't want anyone to be under the delusion that, all you have to do is be a Black business owner. All you have to do is be a woman business owner, and money's just being thrown at you.
We know that's not the case.
Those sorts of things, and that is just absolutely not the case.
Yeah, but I mean, when you were starting this 20 years ago, obviously you're a visionary. You saw this has got to change. We have to do some education around it, and what I mean by things are picking up a little bit is more the momentum in the educational space of, hey, we need more women and BIPOC and LGBTQ people being the investors, being the decision makers.
Yes.
And that's what I'm excited about, is that people are at least starting to talk about that, but we actually have to take those actions. And I know that that's what you and I agree on, is that this is the purpose of all the work you're doing. It's the purpose of Show Her the Money movement, is to get more people educated about why they need to invest in these overlooked sectors. And let's mention,
Catherine, I want to pause on that point for just a moment,
Sure.
because that really is the part that I am very excited about. It is the shift away from the narrative that the business owners need to be better, the founders need to be better. Again, we do still hear some of that, but it is the recognition that the system needs to change, that the system is fundamentally not inclusive for a whole host of reasons, and that it's the system that needs to change, and that we all need to collectively work on strategies and tactics for how we create a more inclusive system overall. So that's the piece, and that the investor community is what undergirds that for entrepreneurs. So that's the part that I am very excited about.
and I want to talk a little bit about your background, because this is, to me, what really makes you an authority in this space. So here you started as an analyst at Goldman Sachs, working on $100 million merger acquisition. So, you have a lot of knowledge in this space. You also worked for your family business, which I just learned in reading your bio, City News Publishing Company, doing ad sales,
Everything.
Everything. I was going to say,
when you're in a small business, owned by your parents, you have to do whatever needs to be done.
Yes, I was going to say partnerships, publishing with Yes Magazine, which I love the name of that, by the way. And so you have all that background. You've won awards, the Crane's New York Business Whole Health Heroes, and you're affiliated with many groups, but Women Forum in New York, and also Harvard alumni entrepreneurs. So, this is an amazing background that you bring to the table when you started this 20 years ago. And then I want to mention the exact mission of IFEL, because I think a description of your 501(c) is important. And from what I understand, this is, your mission statement is that it's to eradicate systematic barriers that prevent historically excluded populations from having access to knowledge and networks and capital that are required for us to be successful entrepreneurs and have wealth creation. And what an incredible mission that is. We need more leaders like you in this space. So tell me about IFEL, as far as how many people have been through your program. What are some success stories? Share some things about the Institute that you're especially proud of.
What I really look at is what the ingredients are, and what we started peeling back the layers on are the ingredients to success as an entrepreneur. As we know, Catherine, it's really hard to be successful as an entrepreneur, no matter the level of resource that you have. You could have all the resources in the world and still not be successful. And we see that happen all the time. The key here is that you don't even have the opportunity, the possibility of being successful without access to knowledge, networks, and capital. And all of those three are really, really intertwined and integrated. It is unlikely that you will get access to capital if you don't have access to the network of people that have resources that can be your investors. At the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership, we talk about historical exclusion as a distinction from discrimination and people who lack of
resources or networks or connections.
We look at historical exclusion versus discrimination, racism that we know exists. There are, lots of people who don't like other people. That is what it is. But there was a point in time in the United States where there were certain groups that were prevented by law from owning homes or having owning homes in specific areas, from being able to take advantage of federally backed mortgage programs that led to the growth of the middle class. So that is the historical exclusion to which we refer. Now, when we look at our strategies for creating a more inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem, these strategies can be applied and tactics can be applied across the board to and for and on behalf of any group that matters to you. So that's why we see the work that we do as being very universal, even when we are focused more narrowly in testing strategies with specific groups.
Right. And, like you're saying, it does depend on where you grow up, whether you have access to connections and resources. So thank goodness for IFEL, because you're providing that platform to all of these overlooked communities that don't have access to that. You're giving them access to those resources and connections that they need. What an incredible platform.
Yeah, and it really, again, does come from the combination of my experiences. By and large, I had a very short stint, in investment banking in the financial analyst program. I was at, the bottom of the totem pole. But even that short experience gave me this view into a world where capital was just not a constraint. My parents' business helped me to understand what business owners really go through and the challenges on a day-to-day basis and what the impact is if you don't have access to capital, the constraints that causes for you, even from a mindset perspective. I did have the good fortune of attending and graduating from Harvard. I've been in a lot of different circles and I move in a lot of different circles. And so I do have a level of connectivity and access that is unique and I realize very privileged. And so it's having that view that helps me to understand that when you don't have that, it is a severely limiting factor. So I look to, how do I use my resources, my connections, my connectivity, and that of the others in my network to open more doors for more people.
And that's where you and I definitely align. Like, I'm all about connecting. I think there's such a magic in that. And you know what? It's free to connect people. I always tell that to people. If you know someone over here that needs a certain service or, wants to provide their services to a company and you happen to know someone that knows that person, why not put them together? There's such joy in that, really. And that is the magic of connecting people. And we should all be doing it. I really want to perpetuate that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I guess, it must have really been so helpful to you to have grown up in an entrepreneurial family. Because that, I'm sure, helped you learn so much, the good and the bad, that you can take to helping other entrepreneurs, right? What a great experience.
Well, I can empathize and sympathize, and I know what they're going through. I truly know what they're going through. At the same time, I think it helps me to take in our organization, take a tough love approach. Yep, I get it. I get that you're really tired. I get that you have a lot going on. And, yes, and your customers don't care about that. Your employees likely don't care about that. You have to get it done. You don't have a lot of resources. Yep, I get it. You still have to show up in a certain way that suggests that you can take on the contract, that you can get it done. So I do think that that is part of our secret sauce as an organization. And many of the amazing team members that we have either have or have had their own entrepreneurial experiences. So that does make us uniquely positioned to do the work that we do.
Yeah, I've met some of the amazing people on your team. You've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, helped a lot of entrepreneurs. Do you have some specific, success stories that you would like to share that have come out of IFEL?
So right now we are, we look at our work really in three areas. We have a focus on relationship capital connections, investor inclusion, and community small business capacity building. And all of those work together. Our work with business owners to help build their capacity. And we look at our three buckets: small business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders. Each of those buckets need things that are slightly different. But we work to build the capacity, their capacity to grow and to scale if that is appropriate for them. One of the things that we found over the years to be a challenge was in doing the work, helping folks to get ready for capital, but then we were still finding that it was the actual capital itself was elusive. Now with our acquisition of Pipeline Angels and the growth of our investor inclusion work overall, starting with the making of Black Angels, that has created for us this amazing community of people who are check writers and people who want to be check writers to support the founders and entrepreneurs that they care about and the people who are producing the products and services that they care about. So that has been a tremendous addition to our community over the last several years. We also have a bench of or a community of 2,000 plus business professionals who serve as volunteers. So when we bring all those resources to the table, what we get is a robust support system for the small business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders that we work with. Right now, and I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, we are on our 15-city Creating Conscious Collisions tour. And what we have observed from that, Catherine, and it's there are comments that we hear over and over again, that the true value in what people get, what these small business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders get from being part of our community is the connectivity. We have seen founders connect with investors at the events and actually get checks written, actually get capital because they had that connection. We have seen business owners who are engaged in crowdfunding campaigns, and we're able to share that information throughout our network, and they're able to complete their crowdfunding raises. Even just having, and I don't want to say just because this is really important, but having the support of volunteer expertise. So that's money that they don't have to spend getting the expertise that they desperately need in the form of even legal support, support with marketing, so that they're able to stretch the scarce dollars, the scarce capital that they do have, and make that create more runway for themselves in that way.
I always say, often and most of the time, entrepreneurs have their great idea, and that's what they're good at. But they're not good at everything, and they can't try to do everything themselves. And I feel like that's where IFEL really comes in, the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership, helping them with anything from accounting to legal to marketing, like you just mentioned. Those are also important. And I always say, do what you're good at, and then bring in people that are good at what you're not good at or what you don't like doing, because you're not going to be good at it if you don't like doing it, and let those people do what they love doing. That's what really makes it work. Most businesses absolutely need a team in order to really be successful. And so I love that you're supplying that knowledge, those connections, those resources, as well as the funding, which is also incredibly important. And I was going to ask you about that acquisition of Pipeline Angels. So it made perfect sense that you acquired that to offer now that resource of capital to the members of your IFEL entity. And then super excited to hear about you starting Black Angels. How do people find out about how to become angels in those two groups that you run?
Absolutely. People can go to our IFEL website, our general IFEL website. You can visit pipelineangels.com and learn more about our Pipeline Angels training program.
And is that ifel.com or .org?
It is weareifel.org. Yes, we are
IFEL. We are IFEL
.org.
.org. Okay, great.
Yes. And then pipelineangels.com, and I believe we'll have the .org very soon on that as well. We're still in a transition mode with Pipeline Angels. But yes, through Pipeline Angels and through the making of Black Angels, that is where we are increasing awareness, as well as doing training and getting people introduced to how to enter the world of angel investing, or how to formalize maybe what they had been doing, as far as investing in a deal here, a deal there, with a friend here, a friend there. How do you really dive into this as an asset class, and understanding what it means to be part of that asset class, and also what it means for the founders and opening up access to capital more broadly, what the impact is of being an angel investor in the broader systemic picture of access to capital.
And I think that's one message that you and I have been aligned on and have been really putting out there, is that it's super exciting to be an angel investor. You step into an angel group and you meet the most fascinating people. I know even in the movie that 3 of the women that met at Pipeline Angels created Emmeline Ventures.
Exactly.
So, here they met, made their own investments, did well, and decided to start their own venture capital fund. So you never know who you're going to meet, but guaranteed, when you go to these angel groups, you're going to meet other brilliant, fascinating people. And that's why I always encourage people to step into this asset class that a lot of people have not been investing in. They've been doing the traditional, CDs, real estate, public market. But this is where not only a lot of money is made, but a lot of impact is made. And you're stepping into an arena of people who are innovators and interesting people. And so it's a fascinating world. Once you're in it, you're going to see that it's fun, it's fascinating, it's something that should be part of your portfolio for so many reasons, but mainly.
Well, Catherine, it's a very closed community. It's one where often, it's kind of deals that are made on the golf course and in the cigar lounges, and, people just talking amongst each other. If you're not in those areas, you don't find out about it, and people don't invite you to the table. And I think what's really exciting, and, we're seeing it through your movement, is that there are a lot of people who do have wealth. We are very careful to say one is super risky for sure, but you don't need to have millions and millions and millions of dollars. These investments at times are small, but if many people come together with small investments, that can make a difference. Sometimes it's only the difference of $25,000 or $50,000 that can create tremendous runway for founders to be able to get to the next bridge for them to cross, or give them the runway to cross that bridge. So we really feel like by being part of the investor community, you're just meeting people who are about taking action because they are ready, willing, and able to use their resources to affect the change that they want to see.
Absolutely. And don't we want to use our money to invest in things that are the products of the future? And so it's so exciting to learn about them, to meet the people who are the innovators. So I love that
products and services that are needed, Catherine, that, if we don't fund them, they don't make it to market. So for, one of the areas that we're seeing so much growth is even in women's health. Where so many health issues have just been overlooked and not even addressed. Well, if you don't have women investors, and it's not that men, or just don't care at all, there may be issues that they just simply don't understand. We've seen deals getting done in the beauty space that addresses more textured hair. This is an area that for years and years and years, people thought, oh, it's, just hair, not understanding that Black women in particular spend a lot of money on hair products. And so we've seen some deals get done in that space at very high values. So it really takes people who understand particular issues to be willing to fund the issues and the causes and solving the problems that matter to them.
100%. And, I did a TED Talk on this called Fund Women Save the World. And it's about, the research shows, without a doubt, people do tend to invest in people they identify with. So we have to have women sitting at the table listening to the pitches of these women if we're going to get funding for them. And
that's not sinister, Catherine. That's the other thing that I'd like to point out, that so much of the conversation often, revolves around racism or people being excluded intentionally. And yes, we do know that does exist. However, there's a lot of it that is just, you have a woman's issue, I have a woman's issue. We can identify around that. There's a common thread. So that's how we connect. That is just simply human nature. And that's what we try to message about. Get involved to solve the things that matter to you.
I love that. And, you're really addressing both sides of it. So I love with IFEL, the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership, you're helping founders connect to funding and resources and connections. On the other hand, the perfect fit is you're developing pipeline angels and black angels to give people the opportunity to become investors. So great you're addressing both sides of it.
I want to add, Catherine, we see that a lot of the work that we're doing is actually in support of investors and the investor community to help them connect with opportunities, with people.
Definitely.
With whom they would not have otherwise been connected.
Yeah, I love it. You're doing both sides of it.
To see a broader spectrum of opportunities, people, et cetera, which broadens their opportunity for success.
Yes, 100%. So please visit weareifel.org and also look for Pipeline Angels.
Pipeline Angels.
And Black Angels on the way. Jill, thanks for all that you do. So excited to have you be part of Show Her the Money movement or movement. And just thanks for being on today and sharing all that you're doing, because this is a wonderful resource for our listeners. And they can find you on LinkedIn and social media?
Absolutely on LinkedIn.
Okay, great. Well, you can find Jill Johnson of IFEL on LinkedIn. Of course, you can find me as well, Catherine Gray with an A. And I also have sheangelinvestors.com that has resources, and our movie site, showherthemoneymovie.com. You can learn about our schedule, and we have resources on there as well. Be sure to check out the IFEL website and the Angel Group Pipeline Angels, and also coming Black Angels. Jill, thanks for everything you do, and thanks for being a great guest.